It's 11:47 p.m. You send a message. 2 minutes later, the little scene notification appears. They saw it. They're awake. They're online. And then, nothing. 5 minutes pass, then 30, then an hour. Which is strange, because nobody threatened you. Nobody insulted you. Nothing actually happened. And yet somehow it hurts. Why? Why can something as small as being ignored ruin an entire day? The answer begins in a world without phones, without cities, without roads. A world where being ignored wasn't awkward. It was dangerous. For most of human history, humans lived in small tribes. 20 people, maybe 50. That was your entire world. The people around you weren't just friends. They were your food supply, your protection, your future. If you got sick, they helped you survive. If you got injured, they carried you. If a predator attacked, they fought beside you. Everything depended on the group. Now imagine something changes. People stop talking to you. They stop looking at you. They stop including you. Nobody explains why. Nobody argues. Nobody complains. They simply act as if you aren't there. Today, that would be painful. 100,000 years ago, it was terrifying. Because being excluded from the tribe didn't mean hurt feelings. It meant sleeping alone, hunting alone, surviving alone, and alone was where people died. The cold didn't care. Predators didn't care. Starvation didn't care. Nature was full of things that could kill a human. And one of the best defenses against all of them was other humans. That's why our ancestors became obsessed with belonging. Not because they were emotional, because they had to be. People who maintained strong social bonds survived. People who didn't often disappeared. Over thousands of generations, evolution turned belonging into a survival need. And survival needs don't feel optional. They feel urgent. Think about hunger. Your body doesn't politely remind you to eat. It creates discomfort, pain, cravings, a powerful signal that something important is missing. Social connection works in a surprisingly similar way. Your brain doesn't want you to ignore relationships. So it created a warning system. And that warning system hurts. Scientists discovered just how literal this is. In one famous experiment, researchers placed volunteers inside brain scanners and had them play a simple virtual game. At first, everyone was included. Then suddenly the other players stopped interacting with them. No insults, no arguments, no rejection speech. They were simply ignored. The results were surprising. Brain regions associated with physical pain became active, not because participants were injured, because their brains interpreted social exclusion as a threat. And in a way, that's exactly what it is, at least according to the ancient part of your mind. But here's the strange thing. Most people assume this means there's something wrong with us, that humans are too sensitive, too emotional, too dependent on what others think. The reality is almost the opposite. The strange thing isn't that rejection hurts. The strange thing is that it would be dangerous if it didn't. Imagine a human ancestor who felt absolutely nothing when excluded. No discomfort, no anxiety, no urge to reconnect. Would they fight to stay in the group? Would they repair damaged relationships? Would they notice when they were being pushed out? Probably not. And that's a problem. Because the people who didn't care about belonging were the people most likely to end up alone. And the people who ended up alone rarely survived long enough to pass their genes on. In other words, rejection hurts because evolution wanted it to. The pain isn't a flaw. It's a feature. A survival mechanism built over hundreds of thousands of years. But there's another reason being ignored feels so powerful today. Your brain evolved for tribes. Not social media. Not texting. Not read receipts. Not followers. The ancient systems inside your skull were designed to manage relationships with maybe 50 people. Now they have to process thousands. A message gets ignored. A post gets no response. Someone leaves you on read. To your rational mind, these events are small. To an ancient survival system, they can feel much bigger. Because that system isn't asking, is this important? It's asking, am I still part of the group? And sometimes those aren't the same question. Which brings us to something most people never realize. Being ignored doesn't hurt because you want attention. It hurts because you want certainty. Certainty that you matter. Certainty that you're seen. Certainty that you still belong. For most of human history, belonging wasn't a luxury. It was survival, and somewhere deep inside your brain it still is. The modern world allows humans to live alone, work alone, eat alone, even spend entire days without speaking to another person. But the ancient brain inside your skull doesn't fully believe that. It still comes from a world where other people meant safety, where isolation meant danger, where being forgotten could cost you everything. And maybe that's why being ignored hurts so much. Not because you're weak, not because you're overly sensitive, but because the part of your brain responsible for keeping you alive still lives in a world that no longer exists. A world where survival depended on one simple question. Does the tribe still want me here?